Imagine a billionaire with no social media, no interviews, and no public appearances. Someone who vanished from public life only to reappear in whispers tied to a mysterious city rising in the middle of the desert. No one knew who was behind it. No one was supposed to, until someone looked closer. This is the story of the billionaire who funded a city no one was meant to see. To understand what makes this story so unbelievable, we first need to understand the man behind it all. His name is Julian Roth, but most people have never heard it. That's by design. In a world where billionaires compete for headlines, Julian did the opposite. He disappeared. No public appearances, no speeches, no press interviews, no social media, not even a verified bio. To the public, he was a ghost. To the few who dealt with him behind closed doors, he was a phantom with power, precise, untouchable, and always 10 steps ahead. Julian made his fortune in the unglamorous corners of technology, systems built not for consumers but for governments. At just 27, he founded a cybersecurity company that specialized in defense contracts buried so deep in bureaucracy that even the agencies involved barely knew what they were approving. His firm Aegis Systems built quantum-proof encryption tools, surveillance platforms, and predictive algorithms designed to monitor large populations in real time, quietly and without public attention. Julian became essential to the machinery of national security. Then came the buyout. A multinational conglomerate purchased his company for a rumored $18.4 billion. The deal made headlines briefly, but Julian didn't. He vanished before the ink dried. No victory lap, no farewell message. He didn't move to Hollywood or launch a foundation. Instead, he resigned from the board, sold his public holdings, and walked away. What no one realized at the time was that his disappearance wasn't retreat, it was strategy. Inside elite circles, Julian had already built a reputation. He was known for being ruthless with efficiency, allergic to attention, and obsessed with two things: privacy and control. Unlike others in the league, he never flaunted luxury. He flew private but anonymously. He brought properties through small shell companies. Even his closest business partners rarely had access to his direct contact. His meetings were sparse, encrypted, and typically conducted through a layer of intermediaries trained to speak only when necessary. It was never about wealth, it was about architecture. Julian didn't just build systems, he wanted to redesign the way life itself was organized. He believed the current world was too bloated, too noisy, too exposed. Governments were too slow, cities too chaotic. He once reportedly told a colleague, "If the future is worth anything, it has to be engineered, not inherited." That's why when whispers of a massive off-grid construction site began surfacing in an unnamed desert, equipped with fiber optic cabling, drone surveillance towers, and a perimeter guarded like a military base, some people already suspected who was behind it. The scope, the secrecy, the precision, it all felt familiar. But it wasn't just his disappearance that sparked attention. It was what he started building. It started like most secrets do, in fragments. A strange shape spotted on a satellite image. A stretch of clear desert land in a region where nothing should have been built. The another image surfaced, a grid of roads that seemed to snake into the dunes, but it led to no known destination. At first, it drew only the attention of hobbyists, people who scan Google Earth for anomalies, but soon the whispers grew louder. The first real clue came from a civil engineer who anonymously posted on a niche construction forum. He described a project in the middle of nowhere, with no listed client, no official permits, and no traditional oversight. He wasn't allowed to use a phone on site. The plans he worked from had no logos, and every vehicle had its plates removed or covered. Security was tight, men in black SUVs, drones in the sky, facial scanners at every gate. He didn't even know what they were building. He only knew it was massive. Then came the truckers, drivers moving materials, steel, glass, smart fiber, industrial batteries. Started talking about strange delivery routes, GPS coordinates instead of addresses, checkpoints in the desert, cargo drop-offs where they were told to leave their load and drive away without speaking to anyone. They were paid double, sometimes triple, no questions asked. Suppliers started noticing strange patterns too. Orders came from a shell company, which led to another and then another. Payments were wired through European banks, processed through cryptocurrency exchanges. and cleared through offshore accounts. The materials weren't for typical infrastructure. These were the kind of tools used to build something advanced, protected and self-contained. Locals in nearby towns began to talk. They saw convoys rolling through at night. They noticed the sudden surge in demand for temporary labor, but those workers never stayed in hotels, never showed up in town, never talked about their jobs. In the distance, fences began to rise. Then came the rumor, a hidden city, a place being built for someone or something that wasn't meant to be public. Journalists tried to investigate, but ran into dead ends. The companies contracted denied involvement. The land registry showed it was owned by a long-defunct farming operation. Access roads appeared but were listed as emergency utility paths. And anytime someone got too close, they were turned away by private security, claiming they were on restricted land. The more people looked, the more invisible the project became. It wasn't just remote, it was deliberately buried beneath layers of silence and shadow. But one thing was clear. This wasn't a military base, and it wasn't a mine. It had all the signs of a city, streets, structures, power systems. Yet it wasn't listed on any map, had no governing authority, and no one would admit to building it. That's when the theories began to shift. This wasn't just a construction zone. It was the foundation of something bigger, something deliberate, something designed. So what kind of a city was this billionaire really trying to build? When details finally began to leak, what emerged wasn't just a development project. It was a blueprint for a parallel world, a city unlike any other, hidden from the public, untethered from traditional systems, and engineered with a level of precision that bordered on obsession. Julian Roth's secret city wasn't designed to mimic civilization. It was built to replace it. At its core was infrastructure decades ahead of its time. Power came from a combination of subterranean geothermal stations and solar arrays that tracked the sun across the horizon. The entire grid was self-sustaining and fully independent from any national utility. AI-controlled turbines regulated temperature block by block. Water filtration was handled on-site, capable of recycling at rates unheard of in public utilities. Waste wasn't just managed, it was analyzed, repurposed and stored with zero loss. Everything, traffic flow, air quality, lighting, even rainfall simulation, was managed by a central AI system, short for Organized Response Infrastructure System. ORIS didn't just react to residents' needs, it predicted them. Lights turned on before someone reached the room. Cars routed themselves based on subconscious behavior patterns. Noise levels adjusted automatically, learning the preferences of every household. It wasn't just smart, it was predictive. Some insiders described it as living in a city that thought for you. The homes, of course, matched the ambition. These weren't mansions in the traditional sense. They were architectural statements, zero-gravity pools, climate-controlled gardens, biometric entry, walls that change opacity at a voice command. Every residence was custom-built, not just to fit a person's lifestyle, but to reflect their worldview. Libraries filled with curated philosophies, meditation rooms shielded from EMF, panic rooms connected to private escape tunnels, and outside, private AI drones patrol invisible parameters. Who lived there? That's still unclear. What's known is that no politician, celebrity, or journalist has ever been invited. The city doesn't recruit fame, it recruits influence, the unseen kind. Rumored residents include global finance executives, data scientists, AI theorists, biotech entrepreneurs, and the heirs of industrial families who've been quietly running industries for decades. Each one received a personal invitation. There were no applications. You were either selected or you weren't. Inside the gates, there is no press, no paparazzi, no public policy. Governance is handled through private consent. Each resident has voting power weighted by their contribution, financial, intellectual, or otherwise, to the city's long-term survival. No lobbying, no elections, just systems calibrated for efficiency and protection. It is not democracy, it is design. Surveillance exists, but not in the way we know it. Cameras are invisible, drones are silent. Devices learn your habits to protect your space. Facial recognition is used not to monitor you, but to tailor your environment. To the outside world, this level of monitoring would seem invasive. To the residents, it's seamless. It's part of the promise. Total privacy built on absolute visibility. so long as you trust who's watching. What makes it more unsettling is how beautiful it all is. Parks groomed by robotic gardeners, cafes where every dish is molecularly tailored to the diner's health profile. Art that moves literally based on your mood. There are no sirens, no traffic, no bureaucracy. Even time seems to move differently in a place where everything functions too well to question. Beneath the elegance lies something more chilling, because this city isn't just for today, it's built for after. After climate disasters, after political collapse, after the internet is no longer free. Julian Roth's vision wasn't about fixing the broken world, it was about replacing it, piece by controlled piece. A blueprint not for survival, but for sovereignty. No governments, no systems of old, just a walled paradise engineered by the world's most brilliant and most private minds. Not to be shared, not to be replicated, only to be inhabited by a few. But building something this massive doesn't go unnoticed forever. As the outlines of Julian Roth's secret city started to surface, the silence around it only grew louder. It wasn't long before the attention shifted from curiosity to urgency. What had started as an online oddity turned into a serious investigation as journalists, watchdog groups, and whistleblowers began piecing together a puzzle someone was working very hard to keep buried. The first to dig deeper were independent journalists, freelancers and Substack writers with no major outlet behind them, just a sharp eye and time to spare. They followed breadcrumbs, land purchases under forgotten corporate names, logistics companies that seemed to deliver hundreds of tons of material to the same coordinates every week, construction permits that reference private research facilities without elaboration. It didn't take long before one of them received a legal threat, then another, then mysteriously, their hosting platforms began to glitch. One reporter's entire blog archive vanished overnight. Then came the leaks. A digital activist group published what they claimed were internal memos from a construction firm, disguised as a renewable energy project, showing large-scale installations of underground fiber networks, smart grids, and reinforced concrete shells that matched what would be needed for a subterranean transport system. Another anonymous source shared floor plans that referenced residential pods and command nodes. None of it named Julian Roth directly, but the patterns were clear to anyone paying attention. Still, the companies involved denied everything. Press releases described the project as green infrastructure investments. PR representatives said they were mischaracterized. Contractors were bound by airtight NDAs, and any media inquiries were met with cold silence or vague legal jargon. Even government agencies, when asked, either claimed no knowledge or gave statements that seemed carefully worded to say nothing at all. And that's where it became more unsettling. Some of the land Roth had acquired indirectly through shell companies had once belonged to federal or state agencies. Transfers had been approved without public review. Public records that would have documented those transactions suddenly showed errors. Links went dead. Files had been archived improperly, or so officials claimed. Those who persisted in trying to track down paperwork reported strange roadblocks. Servers down, calls rerouted, departments that no longer existed. The financial trail only added to the confusion. Payments tied to the construction flow through a series of offshore accounts, trust funds, and LLCs created in jurisdictions known for corporate secrecy. Some of the money moved through crypto wallets registered under fake names, others through art sales and real estate flips. Even experienced forensic accountants said it was one of the most sophisticated laundering operations they'd seen. If that's what it was. The harder people looked, the more the story seemed to evaporate. Journalists dropped the topic, blogs that once covered it disappeared, forums went dark, a few whistleblowers stopped responding entirely. One posted a final message before deleting their account. It's bigger than you think, and it's already too late. Whether through influence, intimidation, or something even deeper, Roth had managed not just to fund a secret city, he had wrapped it in fog. The kind of fog that not even freedom of information laws could pierce. The kind designed not just to hide facts, but to erase them. And while the world tried to catch up, the billionaire was already 10 steps ahead. For most billionaires, power is about presence, being seen, heard, and remembered. But Julian Roth was never like most billionaires. He didn't crave legacy through skyscrapers with his name on them or foundations flashing across galas. He didn't want statues. He wanted a system, a world of his own design, one that didn't rely on permission, compromise, or public perception. And that's what the city was, not just concrete and code, but a philosophy made real. Theories swirled around his motives, each more extreme than the last. Some believed Roth was prepping for global collapse, a world where climate failure, political chaos, and financial collapse would make modern cities unlivable. His hidden metropolis, they said, was a lifeboat for the elite, a backup civilization with a hand-picked population and none of the mess that doomed the old world. Others saw it differently. They argued it was an experiment, testing new forms of governance, community, even morality. A sandbox to build the post-nation model of society, one where democracy wasn't abolished, but simply omitted. The truth might lie somewhere in between. At its core, Roth's vision rejected the noise of modern civilization, the slow bureaucratic weight of laws, permits, media scrutiny, and electoral systems. His city had no public accountability, no journalists, no voters. It was optimized, controlled, streamlined. In his mind, perhaps, it was the natural evolution of civilization, stripped of the inefficiencies, friction, and chaos that come with letting everyone have a say. Why submit to the rules of a world designed by others when you can build one from the ground up? Many who studied his early writings noticed this recurring theme. The idea that true progress requires isolation, that transformation doesn't happen under a spotlight, but in silence, far from the noise of critics and regulators. In Roth's world, every regulation was a barrier, every reporter a variable, every law an outdated relic. The city was his clean slate, a place where the code of civilization could be rewritten privately. If you had the money, would you build a city of your own? Leave your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories the world wasn't supposed to find out.